teachers, we know that parent communication is a must. But with so many options, how do we know which is the best way to do it? In this video, I'm sharing the pros and cons of different ways to communicate with parents. Welcome back, I'm Rachel Vinson, and I share tips on how to run an effective and efficient classroom so that you not only survive as a teacher, but thrive. When it comes to parent communication, there are 3 different types of communication. There's digital, there's paper, and there's physical when you're face-to-face with someone. So let's start with digital communication. Class websites. The pros to having a class website is it is a one-stop shop. Parents can go to the class website and get tons of information. You can also have things for students to do on that class website as well, whether they're links to other sites or homework listed. It really is a great place to house all information regarding your classroom. If you don't have a class website, I would highly recommend setting one up and using Google Sites. It really is the easiest, most user-friendly platform to use when it comes to creating a website. There are a few cons to a class website, one of them being most parents and people for that matter are on their phones. So not all class websites have a really good mobile version. That's one reason why I like Google Sites is there is a button that you can preview what your class website looks like on a cell phone, and so you can make sure that things look right. Another con is the fact that having a website requires internet. Not everyone has access to internet, so that could be a con depending on the type of community you teach in. Email is another great form of digital communication. Some of the pros of email is the fact that it is two-way. Parent communication needs to be two-way, where it's not just the teacher giving the information, but where the parents can communicate with you as well. Most people have email, or if they don't, there are free options to get an email. A con of using email as your only source of communication is people get emails all the time, and so it could be easy for your email to parents to get lost in all the different emails they get. I use email as one of my main source of communications, and I let my parents know up front from day one that they should expect to get an email from me every Monday. And so I set that routine so that it's not randomly showing up in their inbox and getting lost in the shuffle. Messaging apps are a great way to communicate with parents digitally without having to give out your personal phone number. The pros for using messaging apps such as ClassDojo, ClassTag, Remind, all the different kinds, is the fact that they are easy to use and they can be immediate. You can see that notification come up, respond, and the parents can respond back quickly. It also allows for that two-way communication. Some of the cons can be the fact that oftentimes parents have multiple kids, and if teachers are using different forms of messaging apps, now they have several apps they have to go to communicate with their children's teachers. So if one teacher uses ClassDojo and another uses Remind, there's all these different apps that they're having to visit, and it can become overwhelming for parents. Let's talk paper communication. Newsletters are one of those things that a lot of parents still enjoy getting. It is a way for parents to maybe post the newsletter on their refrigerator or office or area where they will see it regularly. And you also need to think about the community you teach in. Do they have access to internet, and would a digital newsletter be better, or would a paper version be better to send home that information? However, when it comes to paper, you are typically handing it to the student to take home, so sometimes those papers can get lost between school and home, lost in the bottom of a book bag, and sometimes schools have copy limits, so you have to be careful in that area as well. Using paper for behavior or homework calendars is also great. A lot of times people are paper planners over digital planners, so it just gives it that physical, concrete thing for parents and students to see. Again, you have to think about the fact that because it's paper, it can easily be lost. And it's something that as a teacher you have to keep up with, decide how's homework going to be turned in, how's it going to be collected, how are you going to keep track of things. While we live in a digital age, most classwork is still on paper. And so student papers is a form of communication to parents. It allows parents to see how their child is doing in class by looking at the work that they have completed. I also like to send home a weekly paper that goes along with their graded paper. so that parents can see an overall look at their grade, and it also has behavior habits that I can communicate to the parents as well. The thing I like about both of these is it keeps parents from being surprised when report cards come out. Some of the cons of this is you may need to have some of those papers returned back to you, so getting those back doesn't always work, and it's quite possible there are things you cannot send home. So if you have digital assignments, you can't always send those home. You have to rely on parents to go in and check. Physical communication is so important, and I don't think I realized how important it was until we weren't allowed to have parents in our building last year. Phone calls are a form of physical communication, even though you may not be seeing that person face to face. The pro of phone calls is the fact that a lot of times through written communication, you lose the tone and parents may not understand how you're saying something. Phone calls also allow for that quick and easy back and forth conversation, so you're not having to wait a few days for communication to happen. The biggest con to a phone call is documentation. Oftentimes when you're making a phone call, it's of a serious nature and you need to document and have a paper trail of what was discussed. School and class events are a great way to have communication with parents. It allows parents to come in, see what's happening, see how you interact with students, see what your school is doing. It is still, even if you're not necessarily communicating individually about students, they get to see the whole picture. The biggest cons to this is the fact that you have to think about parent work schedules. Sometimes they can't come to events during the day, and then that takes teacher time in the evening. Sometimes parents think that one of those types of events is a conference time and they do want to talk to you specifically about their child. But when those cases arise, you just let them know that you would like to set up an individual conference with them, because conferences are so important. Conferences are when you get to individually sit down with a family and talk about their child's behavior and academic progress. They also allow for you to communicate a lot of information in a small amount of time. The biggest cons to conferences is the time it takes to prep for a conference, because you want to make sure you have all the information and data to show parents. And also, when you are planning 25 plus different conferences, that takes a lot of time. No matter what type of communication you do, make sure you are documenting it. You need to be saving notes, emails, letters, text, whatever you need to do, save it, keep it all year long, because you never know when you might need to reference it. Parents are a vital component in education, and it is our job as the teacher to communicate effectively with them. I also believe that it is our job to show parents how much we know their child and how much we love their child. I'd love to know what you use to communicate with your families. I have a whole video planned about teacher-parent conferences coming up soon, so make sure you have subscribed to my channel so that you don't miss when that video goes live.